This is the last known photo of Madeleine McCann, taken just hours before she disappeared. In it, she sits by a pool in Praia da Luz, Portugal, smiling between her father and the younger sister. No one could have imagined this happy moment would soon become a symbol of heartbreak, plastered across newspapers and television screens around the world. It was May the 3rd, 2007. The McCann family was nearing the end of a week-long holiday in the quiet seaside town. The Ocean Club Resort was peaceful, its whitewashed apartments, tennis courts, and winding cobblestone paths making it feel like the safest place in the world. That evening, Kate and Jerry McCann tucked 3-year-old Madeleine and her 2-year-old, twin siblings Sean and Amelie, into bed around 7:30 p.m. in their ground-floor apartment. Like every other night, they met their friends at the resort's tapas bar, only a minute's walk away. Instead of using the resort's babysitting service, the group took turns checking on their children every 20 to 30 minutes. Jerry would later say it felt like having dinner in your own backyard, but what seemed harmless at the time would be scrutinized for years. At 9:05 p.m., Jerry checked on the children. Madeleine was sound asleep, clutching her toy, cuddle cat. 25 minutes later, Matthew Oldfield entered the apartment but didn't step far enough to see Madeleine's bed. Everything seemed quiet. At 10 p.m., Kate went back to check, and her world collapsed. The bedroom door was open, the window was raised, Madeleine's bed was empty. Kate ran back to the restaurant shouting, "They've taken her!" Chaos erupted as friends, resort staff, and guests searched in every direction. Police were called, but by the time they arrived, the scene was already disturbed. What began as a peaceful family holiday was now the start of one of the world's most infamous mysteries. The critical hour. In the hours after Madeleine was discovered missing, investigators worked backward to piece together the final movements of that evening. What they uncovered was a puzzle of statements, sightings, and split-second moments that became the backbone of this case. From 8:30 p.m., the McCanns and their friends sat at their usual table at the tapas bar, chatting and enjoying dinner. They were only about 50 meters from apartment 5A, separated by a pool, a courtyard, and a narrow road. The group followed a system of checks, each parent leaving the table at different intervals to peek in on the children. Jerry's visit at 9:05 p.m. confirmed all was well. He left through the unlocked sliding door, pausing to chat with a fellow guest, Jeremy Wilkins, who was pushing his son in a stroller. Around 9:15 p.m., another friend, Jane Tanner, walked past Jerry and Wilkins on her way to check her own child. In that dimly lit street, she claimed to have seen a man carrying a small sleeping child dressed in light-colored pajamas, walking briskly away from the McCann apartment. Neither Jerry nor Jeremy noticed her, and neither man recalled seeing anyone carrying a child. This brief, disputed sighting would later dominate headlines and shape much of the early investigation. At 9:30 p.m., Matthew Oldfield went to check on the McCann children. He entered through the back door but didn't step fully into the bedroom. He could see the twins in their cots, but not Madeleine's bed. Everything seemed quiet, so he returned to dinner, unknowingly missing a chance to spot what was already unfolding. By 10 p.m., Kate arrived to do her own check. She found the door wide open, the window raised, and Madeleine gone. She ran to the tapas bar, screaming that someone had taken her daughter. Guests, staff, and locals scattered across the resort with flashlights, but the initial search was chaotic and uncoordinated. These 60 minutes became the most critical window of the entire case, a period where someone had managed to enter a family's apartment and leave without a sound, sparking one of the most extraordinary investigations in modern history. Forensic evidence and key clues. As police scrambled to find leads, apartment 5A became the center of the investigation. But by the time forensic teams arrived, the scene had already been unintentionally compromised. Friends, staff, and officers had entered and exited multiple times that night, unknowingly disturbing what could have been crucial evidence. Still, investigators collected fingerprints, hair samples, and fibers, hoping to piece together what had happened in that quiet bedroom. One of the most striking leads came months later when two specially trained British sniffer dogs were brought in to assist. Eddie, a cadaver dog trained to detect the scent of human remains, and Keela, a blood detection dog, were deployed to sweep the apartment and surrounding vehicles. Footage of their searches would become infamous. Eddie alerted near a wardrobe, in the McCann's bedroom and behind a sofa in the living area, signaling the possible scent of a body. Keela indicated traces of blood in the same spot. The dogs also alerted the trunk of a rental car the McCanns hired weeks after Madeleine's disappearance. These alerts caused a storm of speculation and became a pivotal moment in the case, but experts warned that dog signals alone were not definitive evidence. No conclusive DNA samples were recovered from the apartment or the car, leaving investigators with questions rather than answers. Attention also turned to the window in Madeleine's bedroom. Kate had found it open with the shutters raised, leading police to initially believe an intruder had entered that way. But detectives later noted the lack of signs of forced entry, suggesting the possibility that someone had entered through the unlocked patio door instead. Phone records added another layer of intrigue. Investigators pored over hundreds of calls, and texts from that evening mapping out who was where and when. Yet, no pattern pointed clearly to an abductor. Despite the forensic searches, fingerprints, and DNA testing, no solid evidence emerged. The scene offered whispers of a crime, but not a clear answer. Every new clue seemed to deepen the mystery, keeping investigators and the world gripped by what really happened in apartment 5A that night. Theories and investigation twists as days turned into weeks. The disappearance of Madeleine McCann became a global media frenzy. Portuguese authorities launched one of the largest missing person investigations in their history, while British police quickly joined the search. Posters with Madeleine's face were distributed worldwide, and celebrities and politicians publicly supported the family, turning the case into an international cause. But with no clear suspect, investigators began exploring every possibility, and theories soon divided public opinion. The first theory was abduction by a stranger. Praia da Luz was a tourist town, and investigators considered whether someone may have been watching the family, waiting for a window of opportunity. Witness statements suggested that in the days leading up to May 3rd, unfamiliar men were seen loitering near the Ocean Club. Some claimed to have spotted people behaving suspiciously around apartments, leading police to suspect Madeleine may have been targeted. Another theory focused on a burglary gone wrong. Detectives considered whether an intruder might have entered the apartment intending to steal valuables, panicked when Madeleine woke up, and fled with her. However, no valuables were missing, and there were no obvious signs of a struggle. Weeks passed without answers. Scrutiny turned toward the McCanns themselves. In September 2007, Portuguese police declared Kate and Jerry McCann formal suspects, or arguidos, largely due to the sniffer dog alerts and the lack of evidence, pointing elsewhere. The move sparked outrage in the UK, and months later the couple was cleared of all suspicion. Still, the investigation's focus shift fueled rumors and conspiracy theories that would follow the family for years. Theories multiplied, from organized child trafficking rings to a carefully planned abduction, but every lead seemed to lead to a dead end. In 2011, British authorities launched Operation Grange, a new investigation into the case. Teams reviewed tens of thousands of documents, re-interviewed witnesses, and followed hundreds of tips. Yet, despite unprecedented resources and international cooperation, no definitive breakthrough came. Every twist in the investigation seemed to raise more questions than answers, leaving the case shrouded in mystery. A mystery that has captivated the world for nearly 2 decades. Aftermath and where the case stands. Today, in the months following Madeleine's disappearance, Praia da Luz transformed from a quiet holiday village into the center of a global storm. Journalists camped outside the Ocean Club, headlines dominated newspapers, and every photograph of the McCann family was dissected by the press. The investigation spanned continents, with thousands of tips pouring in from around the world. Psychics, private investigators, and amateur sleuths all claimed to have answers, but none brought Madeleine home. Kate and Jerry McCann launched an international campaign, appealing to the public and media in hopes of keeping their daughter's face in the spotlight. They met with world leaders, distributed millions of flyers, and raised funds to continue private investigations when police resources were stretched thin. Madeleine's distinctive eye mark became one of the most widely recognized features in modern missing persons history, making her one of the most searched for children in the world. Years passed, and the case remained unsolved. In 2011, the UK's Metropolitan Police launched Operation Grange, a multi-million-pound review of all evidence gathered by Portuguese and British authorities. Detectives analyzed over 40,000 documents, interviewed hundreds of people, and followed countless leads. Despite renewed efforts, the investigation produced no definitive conclusion, though detectives identified potential persons of interest over the years. One name that drew global attention was Christian Bruckner, a German national and convicted sex offender. In 2020, German prosecutors announced they believed Bruckner was responsible for Madeleine's disappearance and presumed death. However, no charges have been filed in Portugal, and evidence tying him to the case remains largely circumstantial. The investigation remains open, with police in multiple countries continuing to pursue leads. For Kate and Jerry McCann, life was permanently altered that night in 2007. They have fought tirelessly to keep Madeleine's memory alive, releasing annual statements and marking her birthdays with hope that she might one day be found. In interviews, Kate has spoken of the permanent void in their lives but remains steadfast. Madeleine is still our daughter. We will never stop searching for her. Nearly 2 decades later, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann remains one of the most famous unsolved cases in history. It is a story of heartbreak and unanswered questions, a mystery that continues to haunt not just her family, but the world. Somewhere, someone knows what happened to Madeleine that night, and until the truth comes to light, her name will never fade from memory.